So we want to be very careful not to make assumptions and come to these conclusions unless we've seen it with our own eyes. And so we want to trust in our child. You just got word that your child is being excluded by other kids at school, and you're not quite sure how to navigate these conversations because deep down, all you want to say is stop playing with these girls or boys. Just don't talk to them, right? But you know that's not quite the best response. So how do you navigate these conversations? So in this episode, I'm going to share how to strike a balance between listening to our child, but also offering them tools so that they feel more empowered at school. I'm also going to share, ideas on how to help your child think about friendships in a more holistic way. And then we'll end with some resources that will help you continue these conversations at home over the years as your child develops and they encounter different situations at school with their peers. So let's discuss. Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Jasmine. I'm a mom of 3 as well as a clinical psychologist. And in this series, Q&A with Dr. J, I am sharing some questions that I've already answered inside of my private parent coaching community that I think are so good, so relatable that I want to bring them here to this channel. So if you are looking for more support, if you would like coaching by me, definitely check out my membership. You can go to themomspsychologist.com/membership for all of the details. So here's this mom's question about peer interactions at school. She says, my daughter is 6. She's in kindergarten. Based on the stories I hear from her, there are 2 girls that she seems to want to play with and be accepted by. But at the same time, these same 2 girls seem to pick on her quite a bit and say hurtful things, such as accusing my daughter of lying or saying bad words. When she tells me these stories, I try to keep myself from going into solution mode right away and instead make space for her feelings and to allow her to talk. But at the same time, I feel like she could use more tools for handling these situations. I've been seeing more approval-seeking tendencies in her, and while I want her to have positive peer interactions and make friends and experience acceptance, I don't want it to be at the expense of her feelings of self-worth. She does say that there are other friends she plays with, but I have a suspicion that she really, really wants to be accepted by these specific 2 girls for whatever reason. Honestly, there's a part of me that just wants to say, don't play with these 2 girls, LOL, because she has already come home upset a few times because of some things these girls have said or accused her of doing. But I know that's not really helpful. So I would appreciate any ideas on supporting her with standing up for herself when she's at the receiving end of accusations and hurtful words, and maybe even being more discerning about who to be friends with. Okay, so this mom's question is so good. I love how she describes her dilemma, right? I want my child to feel supported and heard and understood, and I get her need to be accepted and approved by her peers. At the same time, I don't want my child to be imitating these behaviors. I don't want her to constantly be seeking approval by certain kids, especially if they're not making the best choices. How do I navigate these conversations so that my child is, at the end of the day, feels empowered and has a positive view of herself, regardless of what other people say and how they treat her? And this is really hard. Can we just start off by saying this is really hard, even for us adults, to navigate social interactions and want to be approved, want to be liked, want to be seen in a positive light, and that other people's comments can negatively affect us. And I think it's important to meet these moments with our child with a lot of validation. I think it can be really easy to forget that if we were in the situation, we would probably be doing a lot of the similar things that our child might be doing, like feeling upset, coming to us feeling upset, like it all makes sense. And I love that this mom is leading with a lot of acceptance. She's leading with listening and allowing space for her child to vent. And I think it's so important to remind ourselves, especially in these moments, that we are our child's safe place, right? They're bringing all of their hurt, all of their pain to us because during the day they've been trying trying really hard to keep it together. I was just talking in my membership during a coaching call about the idea that our child wears this emotional backpack at school, right? Where they're stuffing all of their feelings, their discouragement, their disappointment, their embarrassment, their anxiety and fears and anger and frustration. They're storing it all in this emotional backpack. They're trying really hard to keep it together at school so that they can do well, they can be seen in a positive light, and ultimately succeed outside of our presence. And then they get home and they want to unload this emotional backpack. They want to let it all out and they want to share it with us because, again, all day long they've been stuffing it down. And this is why we see a lot of after school tantrums, big feelings, and this is why our child comes to us with these issues. And I think it's just so good to remember that, right? We are their safe place, and this is actually a really good thing that they are talking with us and trying to process what they've experienced. So again, I can't say enough how well I think this mom is already doing in just allowing space for her child to vent. I think it's easy to think, oh, I should be doing more, should be teaching them more, but just being a safe place, right? The fact that she is coming to you and venting is a really good sign. And just being a safe space to come to is already so beneficial for your child and their overall development. Okay, and on the other side, navigating friendships as your child gets older is naturally tricky. It is around these years, the 6 to 12 age range, that your child is coming to realize that friendships are tricky. They're dynamic and they're more complicated than they used to be. And so it's not uncommon for our child to come home and share these experiences with us. And again, I think this is really good that they're processing it with us. So how do we navigate these conversations? And what I want to first start off by saying is that it's always more recommended to approach these conversations more generally speaking, so that your child can just learn this skill in general versus okay, this specific child, let's talk about this specific child. Now, every conversation is a little nuanced, but I would err on the side of speaking in general terms. So one of the things that you want to start to talk to your child about is what makes a person your friend? What does being a friend really mean? It sounds very basic, right? It sounds like, I feel like they already know this, right? But I don't think we realize that we might not have talked about this, or it might be beneficial to come back to these basics so that your child can keep this in mind as they're navigating their social world. So you want to ask, what makes somebody a friend? How can you tell that they are a good friend? What are the qualities of a good friend? And explore this with them and get very concrete and specific, right? How can we tell if somebody is a good friend to us? What are some things that they do? How do they treat us? What are some things that they say? What are some things they might say when we're not around about us, etc., etc. Another interesting thing that you want to explore is why certain peers might make decisions. Now, we're never going to really know exactly why somebody made the choice that they made, but I think it's a really good skill to encourage your child to start to think about, okay, well, why do you think that person said that about you? Why do you think they accused you of lying or accused you of saying a bad word? Let's think about this, because what you're doing when you ask questions like this is you're getting your child to distance themselves from the actual action and make it more about the person and less about them, right? So if I can come to understand that maybe that child said that because they feel bad about themselves, or maybe they've been accused of lying or saying a bad word, and they kind of want to test that out or explore that or see what happens, or maybe they just want some space from you and they don't know quite what to say. It looks like that. Again, we don't know why they said what they said. The point is not to really pinpoint it. The point is to more and more distance your child away from that accusation and realize it's not about them. It's about how that other child was feeling and maybe other experiences that that child has had that's influencing the way that they show up. Now, during these conversations, you also want to be talking about, how to read other people's social cues, right? And how to understand if somebody is putting you down or they're ignoring you when you repeatedly say something or ask a question, or they're talking over you or accusing you of lying. Like, all of these social cues could be indications that they need space, or they're not interested in interacting with you, or they're not respecting you and they don't think highly of you. Like really helping your child understand that when people do certain things, they're really trying to communicate something. So even though we don't know why they're doing what they're doing, we can read in between the lines. And so helping your child understand that people will do things and say things in an effort to communicate with you, and we have to kind of start to read those social cues. So we can explore in a general way, okay, if somebody is ignoring you, what might that mean? Or if somebody's talking over you, what could they really be trying to say? Or if somebody's running away from you or accusing you of certain things, of bad things that you didn't do, what could that mean? What could they be trying to communicate to you? And then you want to help them explore, okay, well, how can you either speak up for yourself or stand up for yourself through your words and your actions, whether that looks like saying, please don't speak to me like that, or walking away, deciding to play with somebody else. But essentially what you're doing during these conversations is you're asking these really open-ended, non-judgmental questions to help get your child thinking differently and more critically about these situations, again, in a general way, so that they can come to their own conclusions. We don't want to be saying, okay, when this happens, you need to tell them this, you need to do this, you need to go to the teacher, and you need to, you know what I mean? Like, help them explore their options, but ultimately let them know these things are tricky and there's not always a right or wrong or black or white or clear answer or a clear way to respond. Navigating relationships can feel very tricky, and you're doing a really good job. And I'm always here to support you and bounce ideas off of you, but I trust that in that moment, you're going to make the best choice for yourself in that moment. And like, trust yourself, trust your gut, trust what you're reading, read in between the lines. And basically, you want your child to come to these answers. You don't want to be force feeding them the answers unless they ask you in a really direct way. How should I deal with this, Mom? Well, like, what should I do? Then you can say, okay, well, let's think about this. Maybe I would do this. What do you think? Do you think that would work? Do you think that would be effective? Well, do you have any other ideas? Again, this is like a collaborative conversation more than a lecture. Because at the end of the day, we need to remind ourselves as parents, we're not there. We don't really have the whole picture. We don't really know the dynamics and the ins and outs. So we want to be very careful not to make assumptions and come to these conclusions unless we've seen it with our own eyes. So we want to trust in our child that they know the situation better than us. They know themselves. They know the other person way better than we do. And you want to equip them with that confidence. And the way that we do that is by, at the end of the day, trusting in them to respond and trusting in them to find the answers and to deal with these things. And over time, they will develop these tools, and that it is so important just to lead with listening and trust that we are doing so much good by being their safe place, by listening to them and helping and encouraging them to think about these things more critically and in a more general sense. And then you can also, in everyday practice, use media, use things that come up in, everyday life about relationships and friendships specifically to talk about these things. So just the other day, something came up about put downs, and I used that opportunity to teach my children, why people put other people down. And often it's because they don't feel good about themselves. Hurt people, right? And if I'm feeling negative, I'm going to be more likely to put somebody down so that they have that negative feeling, right? So that they share that feeling with me. We tend to want to bring other people down to the level of our pain. And so helping our children understand this, right? If somebody's putting us down, it's not that we're bad, it's that other person feels bad about themselves. And so I used that to kind of spark thought and conversation about this general topic. And also I asked them, what do we do when other people put us down? What are some things we can do? To which they said we can walk away, we can, say don't talk to me like that, or whatever. So we just kind of had a conversation. So my point in mentioning this example is just to keep your ears out to small examples that come up in whether it's books or TV shows or movies or just everyday life, and maybe situations they have at the park. While we are there and we see these situations happen, we can use them to spark dialogue and thought around these themes, which can be a wonderful teaching moment. Also, some resources to check out, and I'll leave all the links down in the description below. You can also read books like The Not So Friendly Friend. I'll go ahead and link that book as well as some other great resources down below for you to check out. But reading books, I'm always saying this, but it's a wonderful way to have conversations and continue these conversations in an age-appropriate and engaging way. So definitely check out the books that I list down below. And let me know, has your child ever been in this situation where you get word that they're not really being treated well by other friends or peers at school? Has this ever happened to you? How did you respond? Let me know if you have any other questions. And again, if you're looking for more parent support and community, you like to be coached by me personally, definitely check out my private parent coaching community. You can go to themomspsychologist.com/membership for all of the details. All right, that is it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.